Corrosion due to differential aeration cells. Earlier, we have learned about galvanic corrosion, which is corrosion of a more active metal, that is anode, when two dissimilar metals are in contact with each other in a conducting environment. In this class, we shall learn how corrosion of a metal occurs only when one metal is used in making an equipment. Let us see some practical examples. You may have observed rusting of the electric poles, iron bars kept outside in open atmosphere. In these cases, there is no possibility of galvanic corrosion, as these are made up of a single metal, that is iron. That means there must be some other reason and way of formation of anodes and cathodes on a single metal surface. Let us try to understand that some other way. Let us see now first how a differential aeration cell is formed. The metal surface, when we use it practically, is not uniformly exposed to air, that is oxygen. There may be minute cracks on some surfaces. Some surfaces are covered by dust. Therefore, a differential aeration cell is formed on the surface of the metal as a consequence of uneven accessibility of air at different parts of the surface. Differential aeration cell means oxygen concentration cell. It is practically observed that the part of the metal surface which is less accessible to oxygen undergoes corrosion, and that part of the metal surface more accessible to oxygen is not affected. This kind of corrosion is called corrosion due to differential aeration cells. Now, let us do a simple experiment. Immerse two iron plates or rods or even fresh nails in a dilute solution of sodium chloride. Separate the two iron plates by a porous diaphragm. Provide oxygen or air supply to one compartment and nitrogen supply to the other. Connect the two now. You will observe that corrosion of iron occurs at the plate which is exposed to nitrogen, and the plate which is exposed to dissolved oxygen is unaffected. See, same electrodes made up of iron, same electrolyte, and one electrode exposed to less oxygen, that is acts as anode, the other electrode exposed to more oxygen, which acts as cathode. As we know, it is anode that always undergoes corrosion. What is the scientific explanation for this? In such cases, a potential difference is created between the two electrodes as a consequence of the difference in concentrations of oxygen at the two electrodes. The electrode at which nitrogen is supplied is exposed to less oxygen because this nitrogen gas expels some of the dissolved oxygen. This electrode, which is exposed to less oxygen concentration, has higher oxidation potential. Therefore, it acts as anode and undergoes corrosion, that is oxidation. Because of this oxidation, electrons are liberated, and the liberated electrons flow through the external circuit and are available at the electrode to which oxygen is supplied, because that electrode acts as cathode. These electrons cause reduction reaction at the cathode. If you see the electrochemical reactions, because even corrosion due to differential aeration cells also is an electrochemical process. There will be reaction at anode, there will be a reaction at cathode. At anode, iron undergoes oxidation to give you ferrous ions and 2 electrons. And at cathode, water molecules the dissolved oxygen and these two electrons combine to give you hydroxyl ions. You know, the ferrous ions are also mobile, hydroxyl ions are also mobile. The mobility of hydroxyl ions is much higher. Therefore, somewhere between anode and cathode, there is formation of ferrous hydroxide by the reaction between ferrous ions and hydroxyl ions. And this ferrous hydroxide further undergoes oxidation in the presence of oxygen to give you hydrated ferric oxide. You can do another simple experiment in the laboratory. Take a steel plate, put a water drop on that, and if you need it, you add a small amount of sodium chloride solution also when you make the drop. Even sodium chloride solution drop also you can make. You wait for some time. You can observe clearly that there is rusting. There is formation of hydrated ferric oxide at the center of the middle of the water drop, and whereas the metal surface which is at the sides of the water drop is unaffected. That is because at the sides of the water drop, this metal surface is exposed to more oxygen and acts as cathode. At the center of the water drop, it is only the dissolved oxygen, and therefore relatively the oxygen concentration is less, and there is what is called it forms anode and undergoes corrosion. You can see ferrous ions and also hydroxyl ions formed at cathode. Now, do another experiment in the laboratory. You take an iron rod, partially immerse that in sodium chloride solution. That means you have two surfaces here. The zinc rod exposed to open atmosphere and the zinc rod immersed in sodium chloride solution. After some time, you will observe very clearly that there is corrosion at the bottom of the zinc rod which is immersed in the solution, which leads to initially zinc undergoes oxidation to give you zinc ions, and it reacts with chloride ions available, and you see the formation of zinc chloride. On the other hand, zinc rod exposed to open atmosphere has greater accessibility to oxygen, therefore it acts as cathode. And the cathodic reaction always in such cases is the reaction between water molecules, oxygen and the electrons to give you hydroxyl ions. So this experiment also shows that there is corrosion of a single metal by the formation of differential aeration cells. Yet another example is waterline corrosion. It's a common experience to all of us when we store water in tanks. Always we observe after some time a line is formed in that bucket or the tank just below the water line. That line formed is because of corrosion at that part of the metal. The area above the water line is highly oxygenated and acts as cathode, while the area just below the water line is less oxygenated and acts as anode and undergoes corrosion. This is common experience to all of us. You see, this corrosion due to differential aeration sometimes leads to uniform corrosion and sometimes also leads to pitting corrosion. If the entire metal surface undergoes corrosion at the same rate, it is called uniform corrosion, which is less dangerous. When the anodic area is far less than the cathodic area on the same metal surface, corrosion is concentrated at the small anodic area. Such a situation leads to the formation of pits initially and formation of holes in course of time at the anodic areas. This type of corrosion is called pitting corrosion, which is very dangerous. Corrosion due to differential aeration cells sometimes leads to pitting corrosion. You can see here the photograph of a mild steel material which has undergone pitting corrosion, possibly because of corrosion due to differential aeration cells. Today, we have tried to understand the meaning of differential aeration cells, how it is formed, uniform corrosion and pitting corrosion, the anodic and cathodic reactions. Thank you very much.